What's up, guys? This is Showtime's Fighting Form. I am Showtime. Please follow me on social medias at Showtime Sanders. Thank you guys for tuning in as always. So I'm looking a little rough, feeling a little rough. It's been a rough couple days for me. I think it's because I've been eating too much sugar, but who knows? I don't know. So today we're gonna talk about Floyd's legacy. I think that it's important. I'm not really gonna dive too much into the fight that happened this past weekend. Really wasn't that relevant to me. It was very boring. But I'll just go ahead and do a little quick opinion break about this. So the fight was pretty much what Floyd said. It was a money grab, and at the end of the day, he stole everybody's money. The fight was very boring. It was pretty much how I expected it to go, except for I did honestly think that Floyd would get the finish, but I didn't think that Jake Paul would be smart. Honestly, I thought Jake Paul wouldn't hug him. I didn't think he would hold him as much. That was smart. That's genius. You weigh 40 pounds heavy. You're 40 pounds heavier than a man. Why would you not hug this man? Because you will get stopped. We saw that he was getting tired, and in the later rounds, Floyd started to become more aggressive. He started to land more shots, and he was like, "Oh no, I'm not about to do that. So let me just big body him." Smart. And then Floyd couldn't get the finish. Floyd was frustrated in the fight. You could see he was frustrated because Logan was holding him. And I think that was more on the ref. It's the ref's job to stop that. I know if you hold too much, they will deduct points. But at the end of the day, you don't deduct points in the exhibition because no one's scoring it. But at the same time, he still could have at least warned him and said, "Hey, we need to stop the holding." But yeah, I did want some type of more crucial blows from somebody. But the real fight to talk about in that was really the Chad Johnson fight. I love Chad Johnson for what he did. He looked bad, but not Nate Robinson bad. That was a fun fight to watch. I hope he never gets in there again, but woo, that was funny. But no, the thing I really want to talk about today is Floyd's legacy. Because that's the thing, that's the talk that's been going on. Oh, this hurts Floyd's legacy, this, that, and the third. If you're one of these people who genuinely believe that a man that is 44 years old, that has not had a real professional fight in I think 3 or 4 years, is ruining his legacy by fighting a person that is about 6 inches taller, 40 pounds heavier, and like what, 10, 15 years younger, is hurting his legacy, you're probably a crackhead. I'm just gonna call you a crackhead, call it what it is. It makes no sense. At the end of the day, we know Floyd did not take this fight seriously. Floyd probably underestimated the guy and didn't think that he would be able to use his size as much as he did to hold him. And at the end of the day, he just came and got some easy money. That's just Floyd being smart. But how does this hurt his legacy? Like, did that stop him from being 50-0? Did that stop him from beating Manny Pacquiao, Canelo Alvarez? Don't think so. Doesn't make sense. But I'm kind of on two sides with the legacy thing. One, people got to stop hating. Floyd is one of the greatest of all time. Stop it. Then we have the people who keeps unanimously naming him the greatest of all time. Floyd is going to do that because that's Floyd's brand. I get it. TBE, he sells merch. I get it. Everybody else who keeps calling him the best ever, like that's some foregone fact, stop. He's not. And once again, obviously, I'm saying in my opinion, this is obviously my opinion, but it's a very educated opinion. He ain't the GOAT. He ain't the best of all time. He's the greatest in his generation. Sure. I'm not going to debate that. But the greatest of all, do you guys know how many fighters there are that have existed? And I'm getting sick and tired of this. He's undefeated. Who else is undefeated? Andre Ward is undefeated. No one calls him the GOAT. That's interesting. Rocky Marciano was also undefeated. He also beat Joe Louis. He's not regarded as the GOAT. There's also plenty of other fighters that have retired undefeated, by the way. Oh, let's think about the British fighter Joe, who also beat Roy Jones. Oh, hold on. He's undefeated as well. He's not regarded as the GOAT. So what the hell? Floyd beat the most world champions outside of Manny Pacquiao, and he's undefeated. You guys do realize I think after the 1980s, they started creating a lot more belts, which means that people can collect a lot more belts. When Sugar Ray Robinson was around, was there really the IBFs and then the WBAs and the WBCs and CBSs and all that good stuff? No, there wasn't that many belts. So I'm sorry that they couldn't beat as many world champions back in the day because there weren't that many belts. So, like I said, we got to stop this. It has to stop. Okay. It's annoying. I do respect the fact when people say he's the best of our generation. Matter of fact, legit, we have to even think about it. Is Floyd Mayweather better than a prime Roy Jones? That's a very debatable conversation. Because some people can always go to the fact that he got knocked out by Antonio Tarver and this, that, and the third. But then we're going past his prime. I feel like when we're talking about the greatest of all time, I don't believe that we're just saying the totality of your career. Granted, that's definitely a factor. But what makes Jerry Rice the greatest of all time? Obviously, what he did throughout his whole career. But at his best, there was nobody better. That's what makes Jerry Rice the actual GOAT. This man had, 22 touchdowns in 12 games. Well, let me repeat that for you. He had 22 touchdowns in 12 games. Okay, cool. I'm gonna let y'all see. I'm gonna let that marinate. So even at the peak, there's not too many people that existed that was even better than Roy Jones. Mind you, Roy Jones and Floyd were around their peaks. Probably were around the same era. A little bit, might be a little bit earlier for Floyd, but it's around the same time. Roy was the best pound for pound fighter in the world when Floyd was arguably at his best, knocking folks out. So yeah, like I said, miss me with that. But like I said, I want to kind of break down a lot of the questions and a lot of the issues people have with Floyd and some of the things that people exaggerate with Floyd's legacy. Just to break this down, because I'm not biased. I don't want people to think I hate Floyd. Floyd's one of my favorite fighters. He's one of the best boxers to watch, in my opinion. My number one critique that I hate so much about his legacy that people like to tie in: boring fighter. I always hear Floyd is a boring fighter. If you don't like boxing, just say that, because that's more accurate than say Floyd is a boring fighter. Has Floyd been in boring fights? Of course. But I can tell you one thing. Most boxers in the world have been in boring fights. There's not too many people who've been in exciting fights every single time. Everybody's not Mike Tyson. Everybody's not exciting every single time. Sometimes you're going to put up a lackluster performance. Like Anderson Silva. I will call him one of the more exciting fighters. He's been in a few stinkers that put me to sleep. That'll make you a boring fighter. Have we not seen him fight Emmanuel Augusta? That was one of my favorite fights to ever watch. Have you seen him fight Miguel Cotto? Have you seen him fight Toro Gotti? Have you seen him fight Corrales? As I recall, these fights were fire. So I'm tired of this boring stuff. Watch more of his fights and actually gauge how he fights. And then maybe you could say, oh, you know what? He really isn't boring. You know, he just had some poor showings that weren't that fun. He was being a little bit more defensive. But yeah. Another critique is the fact that they say he has pillow hands. Realistically, that's not just true. It's not true. We have to take into account Floyd fought most of his fights when, in his later bouts were at 147. He was a welterweight. Do people not understand that Floyd actually weighed that? Floyd weighed like what, 150 max? He's fighting bigger people. He was fighting bigger people pretty much a good portion of his career. He was fighting at what, lightweight, and bumped all the way up to welterweight. Obviously he was getting bigger, but also that's where the money was. That's where the better fights were. And he was knocking folks out. When he was Pretty Boy Floyd, he was getting folks out the way. Granted, was he knocking people out? Not necessarily knocking them out, but he was damn sure hurting people. He damn sure was TKOing a lot of folks. So, I mean, he definitely had power in his shots. He broke his hand, hurt his hand very, very badly. So then he stopped really becoming the aggressive fighter that he was. People have to remember, man, Floyd really was an aggressive fighter coming out. He wasn't always super defensive. He really was about that life. So, like I said, he definitely has power. And here's another thing that I hate about the whole him not having power. If Floyd has such pillow fists, wouldn't people walk him down? Wouldn't everybody walk him down? If he really didn't have no power in his shots, what stops Canelo, who was way bigger than him, from walking him down? I don't get it. Okay, cool. So we got that figured out. So then another thing is about him ducking fighters and him picking and choosing this, that, and the third. One, all boxers pick and choose. Let's just call it what it is. Like literally all of them pick and choose. And then it's just the excuse of when he fights them. Oh, he fought them when they was over the hill. He fought them when they were too young. I mean, as I recall, Shane Mosley was still getting W's. Like, y'all act like he was on a straight losing streak and getting waxed by everybody before he fought Floyd. Shane Mosley was a very excellent fighter, was a top welterweight in the world at the time that he fought him. And not to mention, he caught Floyd and almost knocked him out. That was the most days I've ever seen Floyd. So, like, clearly he was talented. Like, he still was good, very good, elite. One of the, honestly, best welterweights ever. I'll probably put him in my top 10, top 12 welterweights ever. So we can't discredit that. Canelo, who's right now the pound for pound best, he was too young. As I recall, guys, Mike Tyson was 20 years old and he won a world championship. Why are we giving him all the kudos and stuff like that and then sitting here saying, oh, well, Canelo was too young? Bro, he was what, 23 years old when it happened? He had 40 plus fights, fighting grown men at the age of 16, 15. That boy is tough. That was a tough fight for Floyd, not to mention he was bigger and way younger. So, like I said, give him full credit. The Pacquiao fight, we can go both sides with that. And I personally blame both sides for why that fight didn't happen, not just Floyd. I thought Manny was being way too divish and could have just took the blood test and things of that nature, and he came up with excuses. And Floyd obviously was being OC as well. It was both of them. It wasn't just Floyd. But at the end of the day, he fought the fights that everybody wanted him to see. And guess what happened? He came out victorious. And then the Pacquiao stuff didn't make sense anyways, because Pacquiao is still relevant, still beating top competition while he's old. And Floyd is, what, 2 to 3 years older than he is. So stop with these excuses. This is nothing but excuses. Floyd Legacy always is going to be cemented as a great fighter. I personally have him in my top 5, top 10. I don't know if top 5, I'm sorry. Top 10, top 5, pound for pound ever. I will do a list, but there's just way too many There's way too many fighters for me to give him the best ever. I think Sugar Ray Robinson is the GOAT. I mean, we still have the Muhammad Ali's. We have the Roy Jones. We have Roberto Duran, Sugar Ray Leonard. I mean, I could keep going. Carlos Monza. There's too many. Willie Pep. I mean, I could just keep naming fighters that are just so excellent that could be better. But at the end of the day, that's how I feel. You guys tell me what you think about Floyd's legacy. What do you think about my opinion on Floyd Legacy as well? Thank you guys for tuning in. This is Showtime's Fight Forum. Thank you. Be blessed.